to Disambiguation. I'm your host, Michael Fawcett. Each week we interview experts in AI, generative AI, and business automation to help business leaders understand how to use these tools for the biggest business impact. In our show today, we look at embedding AI across your business. I'm joined by Ramprakash Ramamoorthy, Director of AI Research at Zoho. Ram, welcome.
Thank you, Mike. Really excited to be here.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a fun conversation. So just to get us started, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at Zoho?
Sure, Mike. So I'm Ram Prakash. You can call me Ram. I lead the AI research for Zoho. I started off as an intern at Zoho. In fact, I got into Zoho through a social media conversation. Back then, Twitter was just for the tech community. So it's something like what Discord is today, a place where a bunch of nerds hang out. Sometime in 2011, when I was in my final year of college, some discussion happening with respect to Android and iOS devices. I mean, that was the time of Nokia, where we had the Symbian operating system making wonders. And then that was when Samsung started coming in, and then the iPhone started picking up. And it was some conversation related to that. I don't even relate. I don't even think of the real context right now. But then there was a manager from Zoho who was a part of the discussion. I just asked him, hey, can I come over for an internship? Then I came in, and then Zoho does a lot of experiments. And that was the time when the whole Hadoop ecosystem was growing up. I mean, things like MapReduce started coming in, things like we were moving from larger monoliths to smaller distributed computing setups. And then with that, there was some noise about AI, probabilistic computing, and all of that. So my job as an intern was to try and see if AI would really help the enterprise. I mean, it was called ML back then. And we did a sentiment analysis model for Zoho's customer support platform. Today it's called Zoho Desk. Back then it was called Zoho Support. But apparently the project went nowhere because, again, there's a lot of challenges in collecting data. We were trying to retrofit AI into a product that has existed for a decade. And we only had customer sensitive training information. All the publicly available data sets were in the consumer domain. So this is where I started. I joined the company saying I want to become an Android or an iOS developer. My boss said, okay, let's just try this experiment and move on. But I haven't moved on to Android or iOS yet. I'm still in the AI domain. So first experiment was trying to see if AI would help the enterprise. And then slowly we started looking at all the other things. In fact, we were trying to do some statistical analysis. Like, for example, there is anomaly. Anomaly used to be powered by mean and median based thresholds. Like you take the top 90, bottom 90, and call the top 10 and bottom 10, and call the top 10 and bottom 10 as anomaly. But with AI, we started looking at past data and then trying to predict patterns, trying to predict if there is a seasonality, trying to predict if there is a trend component, and so on. So you get the gist, right? Slowly we started, instead of looking at totally new features like sentiment analysis, we started replacing existing tools like anomaly, forecasting, which were done using the statistical way. Instead of the statistical way, we started looking at the past data and trying to project patterns out of it. So this is where I started, an intern who wanted to fiddle with mobile operating systems, then joined the AI bandwagon, got very excited. And slowly, sometime around 2015, AI had a lot of tailwinds as well. People like Andrew Ng, Andrej Karpathy, from a technical angle, they were evangelizing the tech. And all of a sudden, there was renewed interest, and we started building a team around me. So today I lead the AI research for Zoho. I set up the central AI strategy for the company. Of course, AI has become very big now. There are a lot of AI teams within the company. But I am from the group called Zoho Labs, again, where we do a lot of such experiments. Few of other experiments that we have been doing are in databases, are in hardware acceleration using FPGAs and GPUs to try and accelerate specific workloads, not just in AI, but also in databases, in other. Let's say we have regular expression matching in our security engine. So can we use GPUs to fasten these regexes and so on? So a lot of research, I wouldn't call it research, but a lot of experiments that go on that solves the problem across the product suite of the company. So I'm a part of the Zoho Labs research group right now, and I lead the AI research. That's all about me, Mike.
Sure. No, that's great. Thanks. And I haven't known the company Zoho for many years. Actually, I that's not an unusual story for someone to come in as an intern and then over years, get into something that they're really passionate about. So it's a great story, and I appreciate you sharing. Um, you know, just to set some context for us. So, we talk a lot about artificial intelligence. We talk a lot about generative AI, but from your perspective, could you give us a little bit more of, the background in AI and how we've kind of gotten to where we are today? And also, particularly, since the last year, all we can talk about is generative AI, particularly kind of the impact of generative AI on how you think about using AI in business.
Well, Mike, I would divide this answer into three parts: the past, present, and the future. So, looking at the past, AI as a technology has always overpromised and underdelivered. It's always on the hype cycle, and then it fails to live its promises. So the investments go down, and this is well mentioned as AI summers and AI winters. Right from the 1950s, we have had AI summers, and then decades of AI winters, and then it picks up steam again, and then it loses it. But today, coming to the present, thanks to the way we have commercialized our data, right? So we don't pay for our search engines, we don't pay for our social networks. Instead, we give back a lot of personal data and then let these companies target ads on us. And it's very, very successful, wildly successful business model, right? Okay. So now with this, AI summer has also set in. Two reasons beyond the commercialization of data. One is the availability of cheaper sensors to collect data, right? So today, just any average person has his heart rate measured every minute, has the number of steps that he has walked counted, and two, thanks to the infinite computing power of the cloud, all of these data are stored somewhere. And then the next obvious part is to look at it and identify patterns and predict things and give insights on the raw data that has been collected. So three things. One is monetizing your data. Two is cheaper sensors to collect data, and three is the infinite computing power of the cloud. Now, all these three put together, I think the time is right for AI to become a mainstream technology. I don't think AI will go on to have another AI winter again. And but even now, the expectations set on AI are very high. Probably the words associated with the technology itself. In fact, the name artificial intelligence itself is wrong. It's not artificial. It's not intelligence. It's just a bunch of pattern matching that is inspired on the human brain. And not just the name itself, every term that is associated with AI. Say, for example, we have been talking about hallucination in the larger language models that we see today. I mean, I see that the word is intentionally designed to believe that the model really understands the human world and then starts hallucinating. Right? Even though OpenAI gave a very robotic name like ChatGPT, I mean, they could have named it Alexa, they could have named it Siri. They didn't want anthropomorphizing it, and they gave a very robotic sounding name ChatGPT. But then we added the word hallucination to it and said ChatGPT is hallucinating, and that gives an illusion that the machine is actually able to think on its own. Actually, there is a bit of emergent capability, but again, that emergent capability is really not intelligence. It is just a bunch of pattern matching. So this is the present. The world is going head over heels over generative AI, and everybody is trying to see. I mean, any podcast you see, any YouTube channel you see, somebody is always talking about how generative AI is going to make inroads. Yes, it's a very big pivotal technology, but the real goal of AI over the years has always been artificial general intelligence. Are we in line to future to look at artificial general intelligence? Maybe not with larger language models, because all of these models are very, very correlation first and not causation first. Mathematics intrinsically is very correlation first. If you think about it, force is equal to mass multiplied by acceleration is legal. Acceleration is equal to force divided by mass is still also legal. The notion of equal to does not say who is causating what. But in real life, that's not how it happens. I mean, symptoms don't cause diseases. Rooster crowing does not cause the sun to rise. We just simply assume that whatever happens first causes whatever is happening later. This barrier has to be broken to reach artificial general intelligence. Or this could be an important factor that could push the larger language models that we have today to understand causation and then do real intelligence. So we still have a long way to go ahead in terms of reaching AGI. So just quickly summarizing whatever I said, the past, we have always seen cycles of over promising and under deliver. The present is the right time because of the business model, because of the cheaper data collection, because of cheaper data processing and all that. So all of that has come together. So I see AI becoming a mainstream technology from now on. And the future, if we are looking at artificial general intelligence, we are still a long time away. But AI can really help in a multitude of tasks. We have moved to domain-based understanding with larger language models and all of that. But still, this might not be the path to artificial general intelligence, is my take.
Right. I mean, it's interesting, and I haven't really thought about the the convergence that is, supporting the ability now to actually use this as a tool in business. The idea that now we have infinite compute power because of the cloud. We have massive data sets that had just continue to grow quickly. We have sensors everywhere. I mean, we all walk around with a Apple Watch or something on our wrist and collect all kinds of data about ourselves. I mean, that's really interesting, and I think the other thing that I hear from what you're saying, and I like this approach too. I've had this conversation a few times, that you have to think of this in the context of a business tool. It's not sentient yet, anyway, and there are a bunch of branches around AI that are moving in different directions. But today we have a fairly new developed technology that's rapidly changing, that has the capability to impact business in a variety of ways. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, Mike. Absolutely. Like any technology that is tried and tested in the consumer domain first, then the enterprise has the late mover advantage.
Yeah.
So think about mobile apps. I mean, my favorite domain. Think about mobile apps. I mean, we started seeing a lot of consumer mobile apps. I mean, we had the Instagrams of the world that went mobile first. But even just about 2017 or 2018, we didn't have a lot of enterprise mobile apps. But today, a lot of enterprise work gets done on mobile. In fact, most enterprise work gets done on mobile. Every CRM that you see, every help desk that you see has a fancy mobile app which has the complete functionality of a web app. So I think enterprise and businesses B2B world will really catch up. They are catching up. There are a lot of AI features even within the Zoho suite of apps. And I'm sure that late mover advantage will really help make steadier inroads into any new technology.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, and I argued this, I think, with several people through the years, because for a while we kind of got lost in this idea of mobile first, and that was not ever really the answer. The answer is, I want to be able to work with and from anywhere. Like I don't even think about it if I'm on the mobile device, I'm on the iPad, I'm on the MacBook. I just want them to all be the same. I want them to have the same experience, right? And I need that capability to give me the capability to do everything. And then I remember, like, clearly we had all these great mobile apps that enterprise companies brought out that literally didn't do anything. They were just like windows. They were a window into some data, but it didn't let you actually do things. And now you can do anything from any device, anywhere. And so the evolution of AI, you think, is similar to that it gets embedded across the business, and we eventually get to the point where we're just simply using that as a part of the function that we're performing in the application. I like that a lot. I think is that how you've approached the way that the applications in Zoho are starting to incorporate AI?
Yeah, Mike, that's definitely how we started. In fact, like I told about myself in the beginning, initially we gave a shot at sentiment analysis, but all the data that we could collect for sentiment analysis were from e-commerce customer reviews or from IMDb's movie review data sets, and there was not much of data sets that were available for for enterprise emails, enterprise customer support emails. I mean, your customer support emails, even though you're writing an angry email, you still start with dear so and so, and then you have this big disclaimer saying do not print this email unless necessary. I mean, today you have so many ways. There are advanced techniques to work around such data limitations. But I'm talking about 2011, where we were using Apache Mahout. We were trying to, and then we really cannot use our customer data to train these models. So where this has brought us is Try and see that little places where AI can really make an impact. In fact, sometime around 2015, we launched our first anomaly detection, AI powered anomaly detection in Site 24/7, which is our network monitoring suite in the Zoho Corp suite of products. And interestingly, we saw our usage growing up when we started adding explanations because consumer AI was totally different. You're making a prediction. The prediction can be of low quality. It doesn't really matter, but you make predictions at scale. But in the enterprise workflow, when you make a prediction, that is triggering a workflow, right? That is triggering a chain of actions that goes into the knowledge base. So let's say something is being marked as an anomaly and I'm not taking the action that I'm supposed to take. I have to explain my boss why I did that. So we started adding explanations wherever possible. And that really won the trust of the users. And generally, the way they talk about AI, it's always about self-driving cars, cancer cures, and whatnot. But you wouldn't believe for the first 2 years, the biggest performing AI API that we launched was just an icon recommender for our low-code platform, Zoho Creator. So you just create a form, you recommend icons. Just by looking at the form, we will be able to do a word-to-vec and present icons for the users to select. So, trivial things. So the way AI helps the enterprise is at any given point in time, given all your past data, given all your current circumstances, what is the next best action to do? Say, for instance, a lead comes into your CRM system. Okay, qualify the lead and look at similar leads that you have seen in the past, then assign it to the right agent, give him a chance of a probability of conversion, give him the possible next steps that he can do. So at any given point in your enterprise workflow, see where and how AI can recommend the next best step. That would be the one-liner for all of Zoho's enterprise AI right now.
So that, I mean, that's a great place to start then. So the idea is it can ingest a lot of data and look at things that you really wouldn't be able to do either time wise or capability wise, and give you that highest probability thing to do. Like I love the application of this in sales. For example, like if I'm a sales guy and you give me 5 leads, and in the old days, I would just try to work all 5 of them because I have 5 leads and I need to work them, right? But in today's world, with the AI built in, it goes spend 80% of your time on these 2 leads because they have the highest probability. This one is okay, and it might close long term, and these 2 are useless. Don't spend any time looking at them because they're never going to close. I mean, it's probably not that explicit, but anyway.
Yeah,
that makes a lot more sense to me. And I know, like last year, almost all the conversation around, especially generative AI, was really about productivity gain. Yeah. And it seems to me that, that's important. And I definitely got productivity gains myself out of using different tools. But it seems to me that when we start to think about it in the context of business applications, that it's not just a productivity gain anymore. It really is a systematic approach to how we make all of these small actions more efficient or better or more accurate. You think that makes sense in the context of what you guys are doing?
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. I mean, we see enterprise software getting more and more consolidated. If you look at the average number of software tools that an enterprise is buying, they seem to be coming down because, again, even though there are deeper, tighter integrations, they can only do so much. And everything is expected to be natively integrated. And especially with something like AI coming in, AI needs to look at your data your data as a whole and not just as silos. Right. So when your organizational data, everything in a customer's life cycle, the moment the customer came in as a lead, then what all campaigns did you run? Then when did he become a customer? Then what are the escalations that happened after the customer became a customer? So the entire customer's life cycle journey is captured. On the other hand, the employee journey as well. I mean, today, especially in the post-pandemic world, customer retention is as important as employee retention as well. Employee retention is as important as customer retention as well. They're not 2 different things. These will contribute to the core competencies of your business. Same way, you look at an employee, he or she came in as a resume, then you conducted some interviews, then you assigned them to a particular role, And then the person has worked on so and so projects. If he's a salesperson, this is his CRM. These are the leads that he worked with. If he's a support person, these are the accounts that he handles. These are the tickets that he has solved. This is his area of expertise, and all of that. So the whole employee life cycle is also captured. And when your AI gets visibility, especially after the advent of larger language models, so with these larger models, we are moving from a domain or a use case specific AI model. We are moving from a use case specific AI model to a domain specific AI model, right? So it's no longer about traditionally you will have a sentiment analysis model for chat support, a sentiment analysis model for email support, a sentiment analysis model for, let's say, social media support. But today, it's going to be a larger model that does every insight on customer support domain. It knows how to assign tickets to agents. It knows how to understand the agent's expertise. It knows what is a possible workload for a particular agent so that the SLA is not violated, right? So one large model that does the job of 100 smaller models.
Yeah.
Right. So that is where things like foundational models are coming in. And we at Zoho, we are evolving into a platform. Zoho One is so connected that you have all of these apps in a single bundle. And this gives seamless access to AI to give you the next best action at any given point of time.
Yeah. I mean, in the end, it sort of always comes back to a discussion about the data, and then the fact that you, as a business, need to have access to all of the data around your whole business versus the application silos that we have tended to create. Like I know I was talking to a marketer once a couple of years ago, and we were talking about Martech and what they were using, and they came up with some incredible number. Like they were using over 30 applications across the market, just the marketing team, and almost none of them were integrated. So I mean, that data problem has to be one of the most exciting things for a business perspective, to be able to have this consolidation and the ability to act on that across the business from one or a few models, base models, foundational models that you can then use in all those applications. I mean, that to me that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So I'm curious though. Now, I mean, we hear a lot of talk about how expensive and how resource intensive it is to build foundational models, train them, run them, and I know Zoho serves a much broader market. You've started really with the small and medium business, but you'll certainly have bigger clients now too. And so how does that impact the small and the mid-sized business that don't really have the resources to train their own models? I mean, they it would just be too resource intensive, I think.
Yeah, Mike, this is becoming a crazy problem right now. In fact, if you were to conduct a survey to the audience on how many of them are using OpenAI's ChatGPT, and then almost everybody would raise their hands. How many of them use their enterprise ChatGPT accounts? And probably 2%, 3%. So the challenge has been the entry barrier to these larger models is really steep. In terms of cost, in terms of privacy. I mean, we spoke a lot about monetizing our heart rate sensor, monetizing my step count, etc. But business secrets can't be monetized. You don't want adjunct surveillance. You don't want somebody looking at your data and giving insights to your competitor. Right. So and then they're selling the software to you at a discount. Here, your information is your information, and it has only it should only be used for the benefit of you. So these challenges, combined with the steep cost associated with integrating these larger language models or building their own larger language models, is a very big challenge. So we at Zoho, we have been very conscious about it. Like you said, we are doing a lot of upmarket movement, but still we have a lot of small and medium business customers, and they expect high quality predictions with just about 40 rows of data. So our strategy has always been continue investing in narrow models that can do one thing at a time. And these models are explainable, they are highly accurate, and they can be trusted really well. I mean, they are not a black box. You can see why it is making a wrong prediction.
Right.
And then add the larger language models only when it is necessary. so that you don't pass on the GPU tax to these customers. These GPUs are expensive; they're not coming in for free. And narrower models are very simple to train. They don't need a GPU for inference. They don't need a GPU for training. In fact, our larger models, we are also trying to run the inference on CPUs, so that we are keeping down the GPU cost low. The training is done on GPUs, but the inference happens on GPU. So, say for example, something like we have Zoho Meeting, which is a meeting platform, and so we are conversing, and then we have an automatic speech recognition engine that looks at the audio and then converts it into a transcript. And then we have a larger language model that looks at insights from the transcript that we have generated and maybe makes a list of to-dos. Right? So Mike is supposed to do this on so and so date. Ram is supposed to do this on so and so date. This is the summary of that. So now we do this offline. You wouldn't need the minutes of the meeting right the next second the meeting is over. It can wait for 10 minutes. 10 minutes is a reasonable time for the minutes of the meeting. Still faster than how humans can do it. So doing the right balance will really help keep these costs low. And we're not doing away with the narrow models. These narrow models will work in tandem with the larger language models. Thereby, we don't pass on the GPU tax to customers, especially in cases when they don't need it.
So it's about applying the right tool to each of those problems versus kind of taking this broad idea that, I'm going to do everything just based on this large language model. Yeah, that makes sense. And then you can really make it much more cost effective across. It also seems to me that that's a much more systematic way to think about it too, right? So I'm doing each of these individual tasks. Some things can be done in a small way, and then others need to be abstract across this whole large language model generative system.
Yeah.
So one of the big topics that, and I've even done a whole show on this at one point last fall, is data privacy, and we kind of hinted a little bit at it already. But how does Zoho approach data privacy, and not just for the business, but at the individual level, at the company level, and then also an ecosystem level, right? Because most companies don't operate in a vacuum; they're connected to partners and customers. How does Zoho think of that in the context of, making the necessary data available, but protecting it at the same time?
Absolutely, Mike. So Zoho is a very, very privacy-first company. In fact, we don't even run our tools on public clouds. All of it is done on our own infrastructure. Two things here. One is the privacy angle, and the second thing is about building the deep technical know-how in the long term. So I think I'm drifting away from the topic. Let me come back. So we have never had ads even in our free tier of products. Right from the start in 1996, that has been our philosophy. Now with things like AI, where the privacy issues become more and more challenging as these technologies develop, we have multiple privacy filters at each level in our AI system. First, we never get access to any of our customers' data. And all the data that we use to bootstrap the model are from publicly available open source datasets, or datasets that we have curated in-house by using generative techniques. For example, we have this receipt digitization engine in Zoho Expense, where as and when you expense your receipts, all of that are the values are extracted, and OCR is done, the values are extracted, and your expense is automatically filed. And then at the person who's approving the expense, he gets a quick summary, and then he gets to quickly approve which all expenses have to go through, which all expenses he has doubts on, and then he reaches out to an employee. So even in this case, we had to generate a lot of synthetic receipts, right? So generating a lot of these data helps us keep our customers' privacy intact. And now looking at the application of this technology, let's say the first thing could be an individual level of privacy. Now, I am a customer support agent. I use Zoho Desk. And I have been working on a variety of cases. All of a sudden, let's say there is a particular customer's case whose problem is similar to my expertise. Let's say we are a mobile phone servicing company, and I'm the only one who's an expert in the camera module. And then there comes in a customer support request for a camera, and that ticket is assigned to me. Now, you can have a lot of sensitive information that is associated with the customer, that is associated with the customer's life cycle with your company. And You still need to know all of that information, but all that sensitive information needs to be blacked out. The same thing with you. Like, you are the support agent who's an expert in camera, and you cannot let your performance metrics be seen to the team. But again, whenever a camera support ticket comes in, it has to be assigned on you. So individual customer level, individual support agent level, we have AI models that recommends the next best step at any given point of time. This is at an individual level. Then coming to the organizational level, right? So now we have, let's say we have a module in CRM, which segments your customers and decides what kind of mailers should you send them, how to nurture these bunch of leads, these are small and medium business customers, these are enterprise customers, and so on. So there is a very complex AI logic to it. Let's say I'm a fintech company, and all of a sudden Zoho CRM onboards another fintech company who is my direct competitor. And I cannot use the data that I have collected to segment my customers to segment my competitors' data. Right? So we have organizational level privacy where an organization's data is only used to build AI models for that particular organization. And in no point in time, any human has ever access to that data or would be able to tweak whatever is going on. So the model is bootstrapped and deployed at the organization that is using the model, using the data of which the model has been trained. And then the model keeps getting better by feedback from the end user. So this is at an organizational level. And finally, at a global level, things like trying to find out if you illegally entered the system, or showing you captcha, so identifying a bot behavior and trying to see that this is a bot and probably have a captcha, or something like ham spam. Whatever is ham to you is ham to me, whatever is spam to you is spam to me, or things like grammar error correction and detection. Right? Again, without any PII being exposed, there is a global model that serves all the customers. So three different levels of privacy: individual users, individual organizations, and finally global models that apply to everybody. And even then, the data is not used to spruce up these models at any given point in time. So these privacy boundaries helps us make it very clear to our customers that their data is their data and it's only used for their benefit.
Yeah, that makes sense. So we're starting to get a little bit low on time, but there was one thing I really wanted to make sure that we talked about just a little bit, just to make it more to ground it a bit better for the audience, and that is, can you give me some concrete examples of some of your customers? Like, how are they using some of the new AI enabled features today? What and what benefit are they getting out of it?
Well, Mike, I think we are looking at broadly two objectives. One is process optimization, and two is maximizing the revenue. I mean, these could be goals for any company, right? Yeah. And the way we have added AI into our tools, I mean, we don't showcase AI as a standalone capability, or it's deeply tightly integrated into the product. Like I said, one of the biggest early hits was identifying icons for the forms that you have created. So very little touch points. These need not be AI. I mean, again, we have learned to anthropomorphize AI, and AI always does the big things. No, the little things. The fact that, hey, it's 3 o'clock today. Usually by this time you could have closed 10 tickets, but today you're at 7 tickets. So maybe you might not be able to meet your daily target. Right? That gentle nudge that helps the productivity of the employee, or even in terms of customers, employee retention and customer retention we spoke about. Again, when you're trying to retain a customer, especially in SaaS business, retaining customers has always been a challenge, and it becomes incredibly expensive to acquire customers, but retaining them is really cheap. So what are the nudges can you do to retain your customers? So we have seen a lot of usage graphs across my 11-12 years of doing AI for Zoho. In fact, initially there was a lot of resistance. I mean, it was just people thought it's just a passing fad. And then sometime around the early 2017-18, when we started adding explanations, we started seeing that our AI usage went up by about 50% month on month. Right, and that won the trust of our users. And then we hit stagnation at some point, 2018-19. We were trying to do a lot of AI-powered features, but then there was not much of discussions in our forums. I mean, people were using it, but any feature usage that we track, we see that there's a lot of discussion on the forums. people are either appreciating it or saying it does not work. But with AI, we were not able to see both. And then the whole pandemic came in. That was where, I mean, even in 1819, we had cases where AI was a requirement for buying the tool, but were people using it? No. And then the pandemic, there was a marked improvement because again, the whole world started remote working. What was only accessible on your office computer in the office network became accessible from anywhere on earth overnight. And then we saw a lot of AI adoption there as well, because especially from the security angle, people were trying to access data from everywhere. We saw AI usage grow up. And then once the whole DALI ChatGPT wave caught up, there is some tremendous increase in usage in the recent times. I mean, I could relate this to how Steve Jobs issued an ad saying, "Howdy IBM," when IBM launched their PC. I mean, the idea is when the incumbent does something big, that effect is going to ripple across the industry, and we see that once these generative AI models gained a lot of prominence, we see a lot of usage and people understand how AI works, and today we see our usage growing like close to 30-40% month on month. And a lot of our customers are using, almost 70 to 80% of our customers have actively used AI in their decision making, which is a very positive sign. I mean, from a very hyped theoretical technology to something that is changing or making smaller impacts, little impact that add up to something really big. It's really wonderful to watch.
Yeah, I mean that's that does sound like what I said. Really, that idea that we're now starting to see this systematic approach to the use of it across all the functions versus I can write emails faster, or I can segment easier, better, more effective, whatever. Right? Wow, that's great. So that's really all the time we have. But Ram, first, thank you for joining. Great conversation, really interesting, and frankly, I could keep going, but eventually we'd probably lose the audience. But before you go, the one thing that I love to ask at the end, and really to help the audience, can you recommend somebody, a thought leader, an author, somebody that has a big influence on your career, and you think would help the audience?
Sure, Mike. This was a lot of fun. Yeah, like I said, I mean, we have to stop it somewhere. Yeah, personally, over the last 6 to 8 months, I've been reading a lot of how technology from Japan, South Korea, especially Southeast Asia. I mean, I respect a lot of people in tech. I worship Steve Jobs. I love Bill Gates. I mean, they had the vision to do a lot of things, but all of a sudden, I thought that, oh, I'm using a lot of Hyundai, I'm using a lot of LG, I'm using a lot of Samsung, but do I know anything about people in these companies? Looking at how, I mean, I read this book, How Asia Works. That was an interesting start. And then currently I'm reading Chung Ju Young's biography. He's the founder of the Hyundai conglomerate. I mean, we all use a lot of Hyundai products, right? I mean, and they just work. They just work. Or take things about Honda. They just work. But do we know the people behind these companies? I started to explore how they started building the Hyundai conglomerate from South Korea, and it's a really, really interesting read. It gives a very unique perspective. I mean, we read a lot of Silicon Valley legends. We keep hearing about them, and then there is the other side of the world where things happen very silently, but just seem to work.
Yeah, so, that's great, and that's great. It's a great idea too, because I mean, you're right. We have really good PR in Silicon Valley, but perhaps there are thought leaders scattered about in some of these other areas where there is a lot of innovation, and we haven't really spent much time. I'll have to check that out. Actually, that's a great recommendation. Well, Ram, so that is all the time we have. I really appreciate you joining me today. Thank you. Really enjoyed the conversation.
Absolutely, Mike. Appreciated the opportunity. Really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you. Thank you for.
And that's the show for this week. Thank you all for joining. Remember to hit that subscribe button. And for more on AI and other software research reports and posts, check out the arionresearch.com/blog and /research reports. And don't forget to join us next week. I'm Michael Fawcett, and this is the Disambiguation Podcast.